"You can tell the Dutch," my father would joke about himself, "but you can't tell them much." Square-jawed, determined, and persistent certainly described Fred Koch, who plunged headfirst into countless ventures, some profitable, some not. His own father, Harry, was also a risk-taker, emigrating as a teenager from the Netherlands with very little money and a head full of stories about America's Wild West. Whether their reputation for stubbornness is deserved or not, the Dutch emerged from Spanish rule in 1581 with a thirst for peace, tolerance, knowledge, and new ideas. During the Dutch Golden Age of the 17th century, they created the first stock exchange, generated the highest standard of living in the world, excelled in arts and science, and sustained a flourishing culture. The Dutch thrived thanks to freedom and a system of mutual advantage, while their less free European neighbors endured bloodshed and poverty. Harry Koch arrived in New York as a printer's apprentice and brushed up on his English skills while working at Dutch newspapers in Michigan and Chicago. His work led him to travel down the Mississippi to Louisiana and then to Trinity, Austin, and Galveston, Texas. In 1891, he followed the railroad to Quanah, where he bought a print shop and struggling weekly newspaper called The Chief. Quanah was in a very poor area, so many of Harry's customers paid, in part, with barter. They valued the news and advertising space his paper offered, and he valued their patronage. In an example of good profit at work, what is now the Tribune-Chief is still published today. Harry had a thick Dutch accent and pronounced the name Koch with a soft, guttural ch. The West Texan pronunciation sounded more like a crow's caw. Years later, someone paged my father at a train station and mispronounced his name over the microphone as Fred Koch. My father had never liked the West Texas version, so he adopted that pronunciation on the spot, thereby making a significant contribution to American phonology. Fred played varsity football for Quanah's high school and was an excellent orator and student. He attended the Rice Institute in Houston, an all-scholarship school at that time, where he was elected class president. Always ready to take any risk that might pay off, he transferred to MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts, upon learning it had created the first-ever chemical engineering program. MIT's tuition at the time was about $300 a year. Before he moved from Texas to Boston, Fred spent the summer mopping decks on a tramp steamer, a merchant ship with no set schedule, sailing between New York and London. Chemical engineering suited Fred Koch. His bachelor's thesis at MIT addressed environmental issues at a paper mill in Bangor, Maine, which was, coincidentally, later owned by Georgia Pacific. GP sold that mill but still owns the Acme gypsum plant near Quanah where my father held a summer job. The opportunities presented by the Bangor mill, including the profitable recycling of waste products as well as energy conservation, both of which improved the environment, were important to my father and remain important to Koch because they are mutually beneficial to our company and our communities. At MIT, Fred, having been taught by his father to box, became captain of the boxing team, while my mother, a golfer, fly fisher, hunter, and jewelry designer, possessed excellent eye-hand coordination. Fred more than got by on his quick reflexes and competitive spirit. He encouraged all four of his sons to develop some boxing skills. While boxing is one of my favorite Olympic sports, none of us pursued it. My brother Frederick always preferred the arts to athletics, eventually studying humanities at Harvard and drama at Yale. I had some of the most fun of my life playing rugby at MIT on a team that won 2 championships. My brothers David and Bill joined the MIT basketball team. David became its captain and was a small college All-American. In 1962, he set a record by scoring 41 points in one game, a record he held for 46 years. After college, my father got a job with Texaco, then called the Texas Company, as a research chemist at its refinery in Port Arthur, Texas. He then worked briefly as a chemical engineer for the Gasoline Products Company, a leading refinery process development firm in Kansas City. Fred's big break as an engineer came in 1924, when his MIT classmate, Carl Deganal, recommended him for a job designing and constructing a refinery in England owned by Deganal's father, Charles. Like the Kochs, the Deganals had emigrated from Europe in the 1800s and eventually settled in Texas. Charles Deganal was an amazing person, an outstanding entrepreneur with great integrity and compassion. His mentorship of my father, who was a 24-year-old with very little business experience and even fewer connections, changed Fred's life. My father had tremendous respect for Deganal, so much so that he named me after him. That respect was mutual. Fred Koch is the soundest chemical engineer in the world, Deganal wrote years later, with as brilliant a pair of brain lobes as are worn by any young man of my acquaintance. My father gravitated toward quality people and genuinely made a good impression on them, whether it was the wealthy Deganal family or Sterling Varner, whose father and grandfather were oilfield mule contractors. He didn't care about social status. He treated everyone in a manner consistent with his values. It's probably a reflection of his character that good people wanted to be around him too and offered him opportunities for work. In 1925, Fred's MIT experience, brilliant lobes, and way with people paid off again. Another former classmate, Dobie Keith, invited him to join an engineering and construction firm in Wichita, Kansas, which Keith had started with Louis Winkler. Fred accepted, paying $300 to become an equal partner. 3 months later, after Keith abruptly left to pursue another opportunity, the Winkler Koch Engineering Company was formed.